The greatest challenge any human being will ever face is not in leading others, but in leading themselves. Every act of influence, every attempt to create change in the world, begins with the ability to direct your own thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Self-leadership is the foundation upon which all other leadership is built. Before you can guide a team, a community, or a vision, you must first learn to guide the person in the mirror. And that is often the hardest battle of all, because it requires honesty, the kind of honesty that can't be faked or performed for an audience. Leading yourself means taking full ownership of your life, the successes, the failures, the choices, and the consequences. It means acknowledging that you are responsible for the energy you bring into every room, the words you speak, and the effort you give. You cannot lead yourself if you continue to blame circumstances, people, or luck for where you are. True self-leadership begins the moment you stop pointing outward and start looking inward. It's the moment you realize that while you may not control everything that happens to you, you always control how you respond. When you lead yourself, you stop chasing validation and start seeking alignment. You no longer live to impress others or meet external expectations. Instead, you choose to act according to your own principles and purpose. This shift is powerful because it replaces insecurity with integrity. It's not about trying to be the best version that others want to see. It's about becoming the most authentic version of yourself. Self-leadership is not about perfection. It's about progress, and that progress comes from constantly realigning your actions with your values. The journey of leading yourself also demands courage, the courage to face uncomfortable truths, the courage to confront your weaknesses, and the courage to admit when you've been wrong. Many people avoid this level of self-examination because it's easier to stay distracted or defensive. But avoidance breeds stagnation. Only by confronting the parts of yourself you'd rather ignore can you begin to grow beyond them. This is the work that separates those who drift through life from those who drive it forward with clarity and conviction. Leadership, at its core, is influence, and influence begins within. If you can't influence your own thoughts and habits, how can you expect to influence the thoughts and habits of others? When you master the art of leading yourself, your example becomes your greatest form of leadership. People are inspired not by what you say, but by what you embody. Your discipline, your consistency, and your authenticity become silent messages that speak louder than any words. Self-leadership is also about emotional intelligence. It's the awareness of your emotional landscape and the ability to manage it with wisdom. You learn to pause before reacting, to listen before judging, and to seek understanding before demanding it. This ability to regulate yourself under pressure is what gives you presence, that calm strength others naturally trust and follow. It's not about suppressing emotions, but about mastering them so they serve you rather than sabotage you. Another key element of self-leadership is the ability to make decisions with intention. Too often, people live reactively, moving from one demand to another, allowing urgency to replace purpose. But when you take the time to know yourself, your priorities, your boundaries, your mission, you begin to make choices that move you closer to your vision instead of further away. Every yes and no becomes deliberate, every action aligned with something meaningful. Leading yourself also requires consistency in the unseen moments. It's easy to be motivated when others are watching, but self-leadership is tested in the quiet hours when no one else will know whether you kept your promise. It's the discipline to stay true to your word, even when no one is there to hold you accountable. Those moments define your integrity, and integrity is the invisible currency of trust, both with others and within yourself. Self-leadership doesn't mean you never stumble or fail. It means you learn, adapt, and rise stronger every time. Each mistake becomes a mirror showing you where you still have work to do. Each setback becomes a lesson in resilience. The point is not to avoid failure, but to grow from it, because growth is what makes leadership sustainable. It's how you develop wisdom, the kind that can only come from experience, humility, and reflection. Ultimately, leading yourself is a lifelong process. There is no finish line, no point where you've fully arrived. It's a daily practice of awareness, discipline, and honesty. It's choosing, again and again, to take responsibility for your thoughts, your actions, and your direction. Every day, you are either strengthening your self-leadership or weakening it through neglect. The path is simple, but not easy. Know yourself, own yourself, and guide yourself toward who you are capable of becoming. Self-mastery is not about control. It is about understanding. Many people believe mastering oneself means suppressing emotion, eliminating weakness, or striving for flawless perfection. But true mastery begins when we stop fighting who we are and start seeking to understand why we are the way we are. It is about developing the awareness to see your thoughts without judgment, to recognize your impulses without being ruled by them, and to understand your patterns without becoming trapped by them. When you understand yourself, you stop being a prisoner of your mind and become its student. This understanding requires curiosity rather than criticism. Too often we judge ourselves harshly for feeling fear, doubt, or frustration. Yet those emotions are signals, not flaws. They are messengers revealing something deeper about what we value, what we fear losing, or what we still need to learn. Mastering yourself means paying attention to those signals instead of burying them. It is the practice of asking, what is this emotion trying to teach me, instead of why am I like this? That small shift from judgment to inquiry changes everything. Understanding yourself also involves uncovering the root causes of your reactions. Many of the ways we respond to life, the anger, the defensiveness, the withdrawal, are not random. They are learned patterns, shaped by past experiences, fears, and insecurities. When you pause long enough to trace a reaction back to its origin, you begin to see that most of your resistance is protection. You built those defenses to survive something once, but mastery is recognizing when those old defenses are now holding you back. It's the courage to let go of what once kept you safe, but now keeps you small. Self-mastery invites you to respond, not react. Reactions are automatic. They are driven by emotion and habit. Responses are intentional. They are guided by awareness and choice. Every time you pause before reacting, you are strengthening your ability to lead yourself. That pause, that moment of awareness, is where mastery lives. It's the space between stimulus and response, the space where wisdom grows. The more you practice it, the more power you reclaim over your own behavior. It also requires humility, the willingness to see yourself honestly without pretending or performing. Many people avoid self-understanding because it can be uncomfortable to face the parts of ourselves we've hidden. But those hidden parts don't disappear. They influence our decisions from the shadows. Self-mastery means bringing them into the light, accepting them, and integrating them into the whole of who you are. You can't transform what you refuse to face, and once you do face it, you discover that understanding leads to compassion, not shame. Mastering yourself means taking responsibility for your emotions without letting them define you. You can feel anger without becoming an angry person. You can feel fear without being ruled by it. This distinction is essential because emotions are temporary, identity is enduring. When you separate who you are from what you feel, you gain the power to navigate your emotions instead of being swept away by them. You begin to live from choice rather than circumstance. This process of understanding also extends to your strengths and aspirations. Many people underestimate their potential because they never take the time to understand what truly drives them. Self-mastery is not just about managing weaknesses, it's about amplifying strengths. It's recognizing what energizes you, what aligns with your values, and what brings you alive. When you understand these things, your decisions become clearer, and your direction becomes purposeful. You stop chasing what others value and start pursuing what matters to you. To understand yourself deeply, you must create space for reflection. In a world that rewards speed and distraction, reflection feels countercultural. but it is essential. Taking time to pause, journal, meditate, or simply think allows you to see patterns that are invisible in the rush of daily life. It's in those moments of stillness that insights emerge and self-awareness deepens. Without reflection, you repeat. With reflection, you grow. Another key element of understanding is acceptance. Understanding does not mean agreement, and acceptance does not mean resignation. It means seeing reality clearly, both your inner reality and the external one, without denial or distortion. When you accept where you are, you gain the clarity to decide where to go next. Denial keeps you stuck, awareness moves you forward. Acceptance is the bridge between who you've been and who you're becoming. Finally, understanding yourself is a lifelong journey. It is not something you achieve once and complete. It is something you practice continuously. Life changes, and so do you. With every stage, every challenge, and every success, new layers of yourself are revealed. The deeper your understanding grows, the greater your capacity becomes to lead to love and to live fully aware of the vast landscape within you. In a world that constantly demands our attention, it's easy to get lost in the noise. Everywhere we turn, there are messages telling us who we should be, what we should want, and how we should live. The pressure to keep up, to prove ourselves, and to be seen can consume our focus until we forget to ask the most important question of all: who am I, really? Turning inward before reaching outward is not selfish. It is necessary. It is the foundation of authenticity, because only when we truly know ourselves can we show up in the world with honesty and purpose. When we live disconnected from ourselves, we become reactive rather than intentional. We chase validation, approval, and success without ever defining what they actually mean to us. The result is exhaustion, the kind that comes not from doing too much, but from doing things that have no meaning. Turning inward helps us realign with what genuinely matters. It allows us to replace external noise with internal clarity, to listen to our own voice rather than the constant chorus of expectations that surround us. This process of turning inward requires courage. It means slowing down long enough to face the truth of your inner world, your fears, your insecurities, your doubts, and your desires. Most people avoid this because silence can feel uncomfortable. When the noise fades, we come face to face with ourselves, and that confrontation can be unsettling. Yet, it is only in that stillness that we begin to understand what drives us, what holds us back, and what we truly need to change. The person willing to face themselves honestly gains a strength that no external achievement can offer. When you turn inward, you begin to see that many of the things that control you come not from the outside world, but from within. The fear of rejection, the need for approval, the anxiety of not being enough. These are internal battles disguised as external struggles. The more you understand this, the more power you reclaim. You stop blaming your environment for your emotions and begin taking responsibility for your internal state. You can't always control what happens around you, but you can always choose how you respond to it. That awareness is the first step toward true freedom. Turning inward also helps you reconnect with your values, the core principles that give your life meaning. In the rush of daily obligations, we often forget why we started certain paths or made certain choices. Over time, we drift away from what once inspired us. Reflection brings us back. It helps you ask, am I still living in alignment with what matters most to me? When your actions match your values, you feel grounded. When they don't, no amount of success will bring fulfillment. Alignment is what turns ambition into purpose. Another benefit of looking inward is clarity in decision making. When you understand your motivations, you no longer make choices out of fear, comparison, or impulse. You begin making them from a place of awareness. You stop saying yes to everything just to be liked, and you stop saying no to opportunities because of self-doubt. Your choices become deliberate, guided by what truly moves you forward. This kind of clarity brings calm, even amid uncertainty, because you are no longer swayed by every opinion or circumstance that comes your way. The practice of turning inward also deepens your relationship with others. When you understand yourself, your triggers, your needs, and your emotional patterns, you start communicating more honestly and compassionately. You stop expecting others to fill the gaps within you, and instead you meet them from a place of wholeness. You listen differently, not to respond, but to understand. The quality of your external relationships always reflects the quality of your relationship with yourself. Turning inward requires intentional solitude. In a culture that glorifies busyness, stillness is a radical act. It is in solitude that you give yourself permission to breathe, to think, and to simply be. Solitude is not loneliness, it is a sacred space where growth takes root. When you allow yourself time to reflect, through journaling, meditation, or simple silence, you create the mental space needed to separate what truly matters from what merely distracts. Without that space, it's impossible to hear the quiet guidance of your own intuition. There is also a deep humility that comes from introspection. When you look within honestly, you see both your strengths and your flaws. You realize that you are a work in progress just like everyone else. This understanding softens judgment and increases empathy. You begin to see others not as competitors or obstacles, but as mirrors reflecting parts of yourself. This humility opens the door to real connection, because you can relate to others without the need to pretend or perform. The more you turn inward, the more authentic your outward expression becomes. You begin to live from the inside out rather than the outside in. Your words, your actions, and your goals start reflecting the truth of who you are, not who you think you should be. This is how purpose is found, not in constant searching or striving, but in quiet understanding. The world does not need more people who are simply successful. It needs more people who are self-aware, aligned, and alive from within. Discipline is often misunderstood. Many people see it as restriction, as something that limits freedom or makes life rigid. But the truth is quite the opposite. Discipline is the structure that allows freedom to exist. It is the practice of aligning your daily choices with your deeper purpose. Without discipline, we drift through life reacting to whatever comes our way. With discipline, we take the wheel. We stop being passengers of circumstance and become active participants in shaping our future. Discipline gives you the power to decide what deserves your energy and what does not. When you live without discipline, every distraction feels urgent. You chase the next pleasure, the next opportunity, the next comfort, hoping it will fill the emptiness left by inconsistency. But discipline teaches patience, the ability to wait, to build, to persist even when progress feels invisible. It's in those quiet, repetitive moments that true growth takes place. The person who commits to small, intentional actions each day will always surpass the person who waits for motivation to strike. Discipline is the quiet force that turns intention into reality. Freedom without discipline is chaos. Imagine a musician who refuses to practice scales or an athlete who ignores training because they prefer spontaneity. Their potential will never be realized, no matter how much talent they have. Discipline transforms potential into performance. It gives shape to dreams. It demands sacrifice, yes, but that sacrifice is not loss, it is investment. Every act of discipline is a statement of commitment, a declaration that your vision matters more than your comfort in the moment. Discipline also teaches consistency, which is the true secret behind lasting success. Anyone can work hard for a day, a week, or a month. But the ones who rise above the rest are those who show up even when enthusiasm fades. They understand that commitment outlasts motivation. Motivation gets you started, discipline keeps you going. It's not about doing everything perfectly, but about showing up with integrity again and again. Over time, this steady persistence compounds into mastery. Another powerful truth about discipline is that it builds self-trust. When you set a goal and follow through, even on small tasks, you strengthen your belief in your own reliability. You begin to trust that you can depend on yourself, and that confidence becomes unshakable. On the other hand, when you constantly break promises to yourself, even small ones, you create doubt. You start questioning your own strength. Discipline reverses that. It reminds you that you are capable of doing hard things even when no one else is watching. Discipline is also deeply tied to focus. In a world filled with endless options, the disciplined mind knows how to prioritize. It learns to say no, not out of fear or limitation, but out of clarity. Every no to distraction is a yes to purpose. The disciplined person does not chase everything, they pursue what matters. This focus is what gives life direction and meaning. Without it, you might be busy all the time, but never truly moving forward. Discipline cuts through the noise and helps you see what deserves your time, effort, and attention. Embracing discipline means accepting discomfort. Growth and comfort never coexist for long. The disciplined person understands that resistance is a sign of progress, not a reason to stop. Whether it's the early morning run, the late night study session, or the difficult conversation you've been avoiding, discipline pushes you toward the edge of your comfort zone, because that's where transformation happens. The moments you least want to show up are the moments that matter most. Discipline also protects you from regret. Most people don't regret working hard, they regret quitting too soon. They regret the opportunities they didn't seize because they lacked consistency. When you live with discipline, you eliminate the question of what if. You know you gave your best. You know you showed up when it mattered. That peace of mind is priceless. It allows you to live without the burden of unfinished intentions or unfulfilled potential. It's important to understand that discipline is not about punishing yourself. It's not about deprivation or perfection. It's about alignment, ensuring your actions match your ambitions. Discipline, when practiced with compassion, becomes an act of self-respect. It says, I care enough about my future to make choices that serve it. It's not always about intensity. Often, it's about persistence. The simple decision to do what you said you would do, even when it's difficult, builds a foundation stronger than any moment of inspiration ever could. Over time, discipline becomes less of an effort and more of an identity. It stops feeling like something you have to do and becomes part of who you are. The more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. Discipline, once cultivated, gives you freedom from procrastination, from regret, from the chaos of inconsistency. It becomes the steady rhythm behind every success story, the silent strength behind every achievement, the quiet confidence that allows you to pursue your purpose with unwavering clarity. Integrity is the foundation of real strength. It is the invisible thread that holds character together, the quiet promise that connects intention to action. When you live with integrity, you build a life that stands firm no matter how strong the winds of pressure or temptation blow. It is not about appearing honest, it is about being honest, even when no one is there to applaud your truth. Integrity begins in the small, unseen moments when you make a choice between what is convenient and what is right. Every time you choose the latter, you reinforce the structure of your inner strength. Keeping promises to yourself is one of the most powerful acts of integrity. Most people are good at keeping promises to others, yet they abandon their own commitments without hesitation. Every time you say you'll do something, wake up early, follow through on a goal, take care of your health, and you don't, you weaken the trust you have in yourself. The opposite is also true. When you keep your word, even in small things, you strengthen that trust. Self-respect grows from self-discipline, and integrity is the bridge that connects the two. Integrity is not a one-time decision. It's a series of choices made over and over again. Life will constantly present situations where you can take the easy path or the honest one. The easy path may offer temporary comfort, but the honest path builds lasting confidence. The person who practices integrity doesn't need to remember their lies or manage their image. They live with a clear conscience, and that clarity creates peace. That peace cannot be bought, borrowed, or faked. It is earned through consistency between what you believe and how you behave. True integrity is also tested in silence, when no one is watching and no one will ever find out. It is easy to do the right thing when others are observing, but the real measure of character comes in private moments. The way you handle money that no one will audit, the way you speak about others when they are not there, the way you honor commitments when no one will notice, these are the quiet tests that reveal who you really are. Integrity is not a performance, it is a practice. When you live with integrity, you stop needing external validation. You no longer rely on approval to feel secure because your confidence is built on truth. Integrity creates internal alignment. Your thoughts, words, and actions point in the same direction. There's no inner conflict, no pretending, no double life. You feel lighter because you're not carrying the weight of pretense. That authenticity radiates outward. People can sense it. Others may not always agree with you, but they will respect you because your actions consistently match your principles. Integrity also fosters accountability. It invites you to take responsibility for your mistakes instead of hiding them. When you live with integrity, you don't fear failure because you understand that admitting when you're wrong is not weakness but maturity. The ability to acknowledge your errors and correct them strengthens your credibility. People trust those who are honest about their imperfections far more than those who pretend to have none. Integrity allows you to grow because it keeps your ego in check and your learning active. Another powerful aspect of integrity is how it influences your relationships. When people know they can rely on your word, they relax around you. They know that what you say is what you mean, and that reliability builds lasting bonds. Relationships, whether personal or professional, thrive on trust, and trust is built one act of integrity at a time. You cannot demand trust, you must demonstrate it. Integrity is the currency that sustains trust, and without it, no relationship can truly last. Living with integrity also means setting boundaries that protect your values. It's not about pleasing everyone. It's about standing firm in what you believe even when it costs you approval or convenience. Saying no to something that compromises your principles is not stubbornness, it's strength. Each time you hold your ground, you reinforce the message that your integrity is not for sale. This self-respect creates respect from others. People may not always like your choices, but they will know where you stand, and that clarity earns genuine admiration. Integrity builds inner stability. When your words match your actions, you experience harmony within yourself. There's no guilt to hide, no contradictions to explain away. That stability gives you confidence in uncertain times because you know you are grounded in something solid. You don't need to chase authenticity. You embody it. The calm assurance that comes from living truthfully becomes your anchor, allowing you to face life's storms without losing your sense of self. Integrity ultimately shapes your destiny through every small decision you make. Every time you choose honesty over convenience, accountability over excuses, and courage over comfort, you strengthen your inner foundation. Integrity doesn't always lead to the easiest path, but it always leads to the right one. It is the silent strength that transforms your reputation, deepens your character, and keeps your spirit aligned with purpose. When you lead with integrity, you don't just earn the trust of others, you earn your own. Change begins within, long before it is seen or celebrated by anyone else. Every revolution, every transformation, every meaningful shift starts in the quiet space between awareness and action. People often look outward, believing that if their environment changed, if circumstances improved, if others behaved differently, life would finally align. But real change does not start with the world, it starts with the self. The external world only mirrors what we cultivate inside. When you transform your thoughts, your mindset, and your habits, your reality begins to rearrange around that new internal order. The desire to change is easy to feel, but difficult to act upon, because inner change demands responsibility. It asks you to confront uncomfortable truths, to admit that your current results are the product of your past decisions. This realization can be humbling, but it is also liberating. Once you accept that you are the source, not the victim, of your outcomes, you regain power. You realize that no one else is coming to fix your life for you. You hold the tools to rebuild, reshape, and redirect your path, starting with how you think and who you choose to become. Transformation begins with awareness. You cannot change what you refuse to see. Awareness means observing yourself without judgment, noticing your patterns, your fears, your triggers, and your habits. It is about being honest about where you are, not where you wish to be. Many people live disconnected from their own behavior, repeating the same mistakes while blaming circumstances. Awareness breaks that cycle. It shines light into the corners of your life where excuses hide, revealing that the only way forward is through conscious, deliberate growth. Once awareness takes root, the next step is acceptance. Acceptance does not mean approval or resignation. It means acknowledging reality as it is. Change becomes impossible when you are still fighting against the truth of where you stand. Acceptance grounds you in the present moment and gives you the stability to move forward. It allows you to stop wasting energy denying or resenting your circumstances and start using that energy to create something new. From acceptance comes the strength to take responsibility, and responsibility is the birthplace of transformation. Responsibility is not blame, it is ownership. It is the recognition that while you cannot control everything that happens to you, you can always control how you respond. This shift from reaction to ownership changes everything. When you take responsibility, you stop waiting for external permission to grow. You stop waiting for the perfect timing, the perfect conditions, or the perfect support. You begin shaping your life through intention. Each decision becomes a conscious choice rather than a habitual reaction, and over time, those choices define who you become. The process of inner change is rarely comfortable. Growth challenges the ego. It threatens the parts of us that find safety in familiarity. The old patterns resist, whispering that change is too risky or too late. But transformation demands discomfort. It requires you to outgrow your own limitations. Every step forward involves letting go of something. An outdated belief, a harmful habit, a fear disguised as logic. The discomfort of change is temporary, but the pain of staying stagnant lasts a lifetime. Those who embrace the discomfort of growth eventually find peace, while those who avoid it remain trapped in repetition. Inner change is not about perfection, it is about progress. You will stumble, you will doubt, you will fall back into old patterns at times. What matters is that you notice, realign, and continue. Consistency is more powerful than intensity. Every small act of awareness, every mindful decision, every moment of courage compounds over time. Transformation is not a single grand moment, but a series of small, deliberate shifts practiced over and over until they become a new way of being. When you change internally, your outer world naturally follows. Your relationships, opportunities, and circumstances begin to reflect your new mindset. The people who once fit your old patterns may drift away, and that's not loss, it's alignment. Growth creates space for new experiences and connections that match your higher self. You begin attracting situations that resonate with the person you're becoming, not the person you once were. The world adjusts to your vibration because reality responds to energy, not effort alone. Inner change also deepens your empathy and understanding. As you learn to face your own fears and flaws, you become more compassionate toward others facing theirs. You stop judging as harshly, realizing that everyone is navigating their own internal battles. This empathy allows you to connect more authentically, to lead with patience instead of pride, and to inspire others by example rather than instruction. True leadership begins when your inner growth becomes a light that guides others to discover their own. Change begins within because that is where all creation begins. Every thought shapes a feeling, every feeling influences an action, and every action builds a life. The outer world is simply the echo of your inner world projected back at you. When you master your inner state, your focus, your emotions, your beliefs, you master the direction of your life. Lasting change does not come from fixing the outside. It comes from transforming the inside so completely that the outside has no choice but to follow.